just fits to come on. Good morning and welcome to Today in L.A. I'm Mike Amos speaking to you from Troy Cable Vision on South Brundage Street right here in Troy, where we're coming to you live on Facebook today, around the country, around the world on Facebook this morning, and we appreciate you watching our show each and every morning, brought to you by Troy Cable Vision, one of the great cable companies in America. And of course, we're live from our studios at Troy Cable Vision on South Brundage Street. Our telephone number is in fact, the hotline number this morning. I just got through touching base with some people at the hotline at number from coming to you from Troy Regional Medical Center, and they'll start taking phone calls from right now 7 to 8 a.m. in the mornings to 4 to 5 p.m. in the afternoons. First of all, if you do have symptoms of the COVID-19, if you have it from the virus itself, if you have been those major, what we call identifiers, how do you identify whether or not you're subject to the COVID-19 virus 19, Mike? What would you say the most common thing would be? Fever, aches and pains, shortness of breath?
Shortness of breath, fever, definitely body aches, but now they've added headaches as well, and then loss of taste and smell is on there as well now.
You're exactly right, and of course those are some key, what I would call key opportunities to find out what kind of where to go and what to do. Is that right? Well, first thing you do is call your doctor.
We forgot to mention yesterday one of our all-time great sponsors in the Hall of Fame of restaurants, Sisters, is doing takeout orders now. So
wonderful! I am glad to hear that, and we'll call out there this morning and see what they've got going. And I know that would excite a lot of people this morning. Of course, we're talking about the first thing on our show, and of course we've been coming to you since 1998 right here on Troy Cable Vision, and of course over 20 years of serving you on Troy Cable Vision, and of course we have right now from 12 to 15 counties are watching us every day on our Troy Cable and then at the same time, being on Facebook is an opportunity for your friends to watch us across the country, across the world. And what unbelievable things you can do now when it comes to being able to provide a great outlet for people to get information from. How about that?
Of course, we lost a legendary sports figure yesterday. The great Don Shula passed away.
And he was a great one.
All-time winningest coach in NFL history with 347 wins. Started his career with the Baltimore Colts, and then went down to Miami and won 2 Super Bowls. I think he was a coach in 5 Super Bowls, won 2, lost 3. But of course, we got to know him a little bit better when his son Mike Shula was the head coach at Alabama. So definitely sad news for all the Dolphin fans out there yesterday.
No question, there'll be a giant reunion of all those great Dolphin people. One of them, one of those guys has been on our show many times over the years, and is a good friend of mine, Captain Crunch. Mike Colon was a linebacker on some of those great teams. Of course, Mike lives in Birmingham, and his son is a very good friend of my son-in-law. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yeah, that's correct.
And of course, just as we sit here, let's try to list a few names that of some great players. The first one I think about is Bonacani. Bonacani was one of the great linebackers on those teams to go with Mike Colin and some of those great ones. Can you think of many other great players that on that team, Mike?
What'd you say?
I was talking about.
I'm dealing with crying baby this morning.
Okay, well, I understand that you take care of that first. Coach Mike Amos calling from one of the more beautiful places in America this morning, and
I'm calling from Great Beach, Florida. It's been absolutely gorgeous down here the last 4 days, and I tell you what, it's hard for anybody not to be wanting to be down at the beach. Your kids are out of school, and you're looking for a change, and want to get out of your house and do something different. It's definitely a time to come down if you've got an opportunity to stay. The only problem is short-term rental bans are still going on, so you're not supposed to be able to stay in a condo or a house. You're not supposed to be able to rent those right now, but looks like a lot of people are getting around it. I don't know if they're just friends of people that own places down here, but there's definitely a lot of people down here on 30A right now.
Yeah. As the show goes on, we're going to be mentioning some of those great players that played for Don Shula. One of them was a guy named Mercury Morris. Have you ever heard of his name, Mike?
Yeah, well, the Alabama players that played for him, Bob Baumhauer played for him for several years. Dwight Stevenson played for him for several years, made the Hall of Fame as a center. There's a lot of Alabama guys.
Tony Nathan played for him. You remember Tony Nathan?
Yeah, Nathan played for him for a long time, number 22.
That's right. And of course, Marty Lyons played for him. No, he played for the Jets.
He played for the Jazz.
Big Bob Baumhauer played for him, like you said, Of course, we're coming to you live from our studios on Troy Cablevision on South Brundage Street. And here are the latest numbers. We try to get that out to you every morning. And we're approaching, for the United States, and we'll probably reach it today. We'll reach 69. Right now we're at 69,925. That's the total deaths in the United States. There were 1.2 million cases, and I'm sure there are going to be quite a few more deaths to come out of that too. But I was hoping that we wouldn't reach 100,000, but it looks like we got a pretty good chance because this thing doesn't seem like it's going away, Mike.
Well, unfortunately, it's hitting different communities now that were not hot spots or now hot spots, and then it gets into nursing homes and gets into a lot of communities where there's a lot of elderly population, and once it hits hard. So unfortunately, it looks like the numbers are going to increase to 100,000 because when you're at 70,000 now, you would expect by the end of the month, the way it's been going, that it would probably be another 30,000 deaths, you would think. So I don't know what to think. All I know is people seem like it's back to normal down here when you go out and about. I was at a grocery store yesterday, and a lot of people my age, are in there just shopping and, buying their wine and, doing whatever they do, like it's just no big deal. So kind of just strange times. Some people are asymptomatic and, show no signs, and, those are also the people that can, spread the virus. So just kind of a crazy situation we're living in right now because, everybody's wanting to reopen the economy, and there's so many people suffering for his lack of money and trying to pay their bills and, care for their families. So it's kind of like one of those type things you kind of just got to get back out there and try to start it back up, and hopefully it'll slow down. But right now it's not slowing down. It seems like the numbers were slowing down yesterday, though.
All right.
I think the totals I saw yesterday were 23,000 cases and only 1,100 deaths yesterday.
I will mention this morning. Pike County has 79 cases now. It went up to a 3 overnight. That's also with 719 tests being made. And statewide, there is, well, the great thing about those figures in Pike County, no deaths so far in Pike County, and statewide there's been 1,080 deaths statewide. I'm thinking that is the correct information. And of course, we've been fortunate in Pike County, and I like to knock on wood when I say some things because we don't know what's going to happen. But out of the 79 cases in Pike County, thank goodness so far no deaths to report. And again, hospitalizations, 0. Can you believe that? If that is correct figure. So that's another bright spot in the local numbers that we're giving you this morning. Of course, the statewide numbers are this. Now this makes more sense. Statewide numbers are 298 deaths by way of the.
That's still very low compared to other states.
And what is this 1,080 statewide? I reckon that's cases statewide. Would you say that would be the case?
Alabama's got over 8,000 cases.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm looking at 1,080.
Maybe you're looking at recovery.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's the case. Of course, we're looking at
some recruiting news. Interesting news in recruiting. Alabama offers quick rising Gordo. Of course, you know Gordo, Alabama is 30 minutes above Tuscaloosa.
Home of Larry Blakeney.
Tanner Bailey got an offer from Alabama for the 2022 recruiting class. This kid's 6'1", 195 pounds. You got to realize, Gordo's just a 3A school, but he's already gotten offers from Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Michigan, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and West Virginia. This guy must be an unbelievable player.
And he looks like an underclassman. What is he, a sophomore?
Yeah, he's just going to be a junior.
Yeah.
That's huge news. Bailey comes from a rare college football family in the state of Alabama. His grandfather, Ken Bailey, played football at Alabama, was part of legendary Tide football coach Bear Bryant's first recruiting class. So we need to talk to Rice, I guess. Maybe his dad played with Ken Bailey.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite.
His dad, Lance Bailey, played quarterback at Auburn, and apparently Tanner Bailey grew up a huge Auburn fan.
All right, let me tell you, one of my favorite players ever at Alabama was a wide receiver named David Bailey from Bailey, Mississippi. A lot of folks that are watching this morning are falling out of the seat. How did he know who David Bailey was? But David Bailey was one of the greats at Alabama, Mike. And I don't know if they're related or not, but Bailey.
It would have mentioned it in the article, but it seemed like, for a kid out of Gordo to get this much praise is pretty impressive.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Of course, that's been a great football program there for years, as I mentioned, Larry Blakeney.
Ben Davis, who's been playing for 4 years and has never seen the field, that was a 5-star linebacker out of Gordo. So
yeah. Whatever happened to him, Mike? Is he playing in the pros?
No, he's just been a reserve, linebacker and lineman in Alabama. He's still there. He's got actually another year.
Really? Who is that again?
Ben Davis. His dad was.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So Davis has got another year.
Yeah, he seemed like
he's been there forever. No question about it.
He's been a huge disappointment.
Look up David Bailey from Bailey, Mississippi, Mike, former wide receiver. He was a great player at Alabama. So give us some information about him. I'm thinking this kid must be related to him. And, of course, my good friend Frank Elmore also played at Troy, actually transferred from Auburn and played on Troy's national championship team in 1968. He was from...
also the legendary Big David Housel was from there.
Big David Housel, yes, sir. He sure was. And I remember when he was real big. But what a great Auburn guy. What a great Auburn guy.
Oh, my God. When you had to listen to him tell an Auburn story on the radio before a game, my goodness.
I think even Auburn people shuddered when they asked him to speak,
When you used to listen to Auburn games, and you had Fife and Stan White and Housel doing stuff
Boy, I tell you what was hard to listen to. The kick is blocked. The kick is blocked. The kick is blocked. That's what I hate to hear on Auburn radio.
Punt, Bama punt.
Punt, Bama punt. They'll never live that down either. But this kid is a kid that's coming up through the ranks. What position does he play?
We just mentioned he's quarterback.
Oh, quarterback. My bad. I wasn't listening. So he's a quarterback from Gordo.
I mean, he threw for 2,400 yards as a sophomore and 24 touchdowns. But, I mean, my goodness, that's pretty impressive that this many people are going after this guy.
Yeah, he must be. Now, how big is he that you said?
Only 6'1", 195. I mean, he's only going to be a junior, so I'm sure he'll get bigger.
That's great, and it comes out of a great program, no question about it.
Of course, high school football's, programs are trying to figure out all this as well, so maybe you can be in touch with Brad McCoy or maybe the new Pike Liberal Arts head coach one day and find out what the plan is for them as far as when they're going to be able to start practicing and get guys back on the field again.
All right, Troy University plans to open their doors on June the 1st. All right, will this be a part of summer school? It would probably be the last. They have 2 semesters in the summer, so would this be maybe like the second semester of summer school?
I don't know. It might be the first because I graduated in May.
That's right. You're right.
School lasted till May, so
yeah,
maybe it's the first.
Yeah, I would think so. So, and then of course, all kids, all players can report. I want to say this is on the 23rd or 24th of June, where they actually can come to campus.
Yeah, you can start working out. You can start running. You can start
and the scholarship starts coming in. Until then, they're not getting scholarship help. But that's one of the best rules ever is to let these kids come in by midsummer and have their school paid for, and they go ahead and take a semester of school before football season starts.
Yeah, it's crazy. In high school football, you can actually start practicing in June now.
Oh, yeah.
Helmets and,
you're going to start seeing more and more.
No shoulder pads and pants, just helmets and shorts.
Yeah. And they're out there in I see them every day out there on the practice field throwing the football, and they're real, they're very separated. There's not a whole lot of huddling going on. That's another thing. This is not funny, I know, but I'm going to ask you this. How are they going to huddle? They're going to huddle 6 feet apart?
That's just not...
I know that's silly for me to bring something like that up, but wouldn't that be something to see them all 6 feet apart? Saying, hey, we're going to run Sally Red left, and we're going to crack back on the end. Yeah, you go that way, and I'll go this way,
Yeah,
Surely, I'm being facetious.
I keep on wondering what the holdup is for Major League Baseball. I keep on thinking they're going to start back soon as well. I mean, you could play games right now with nobody in the stands.
Yeah, exactly. I want to mention Jean's Flowers this morning. Martha Lynn had been so good to my program for so long, and, of course, the daughter of the late, great Dr. Doug Hawkins, our good friend, local veterinarian doctor for many years in Troy and Pike County, and one of the main individuals, Mike, that you'd have to mention if you ever wrote a book about the history of Troy University's athletic program and its march to Division 1A. He was, her dad was very, very instrumental in Troy's move to 1A.
Got the press box named after him for the rest of his life. That's pretty nice.
That's you're right. Exactly right. And what a great family. And again, Martha Lynn is a wonderful lady, and we're so happy to have her, Jean's Flowers, as one of our sponsors. I want to mention Country Financial this morning, our good friends there located downtown Troy, and Health Actions. Now, if you need physical therapy, this is the place you want to go. It's located right before you get to Walmart, and right there on the corner there, and they really do a great job, no question about it. I want to mention All-Star Collision, and boy, you talking about doing a great job. I got a little dent on my vehicle not too long ago, and I went in and I asked them. I said, "Can you, when you can take a power tool, and what it is, it's like giving your truck or car a shine, and what it does, they'll go ahead and do that, and you won't even know it even was there, you know." So it's a wonderful feature that All-Star Collision does, that they'll do that for you. I asked him, I said, "How much owe you?" He said, "Yeah, y'all have a great day." So I thought it was very good people, and the kind of people I like to do business with. I'll come back and I'll do business with them the next time I need a body shop repairman. Of course, want to mention all of our sponsors out there this morning. Circle Insurance out of Ozark, Alabama. Sam Judah, one of the largest dental or insurance agencies in our area, and especially in the Ozark area. Of course, we want to mention also Noble Manor for assisted living. No better place than Noble Manor on Botts Avenue right here in Troy. Mike Amos is calling in from the Northwest Florida beaches, and I'm sure it's beautiful this morning, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful for the last 3 or 4 straight days. I mean, it's been, I guess, around 79, 80 is the high, and, lows in the mornings around 65 or so, but, the beaches are open, the water's beautiful, the restaurants are back open.
What is the water temperature this morning? Are people actually going in swimming?
Yeah, I mean, people have been swimming, and the water temperature is 75 degrees. So.
No, but that's still a little cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little cold, there's no doubt. I mean, I got out in the water 3 straight days, but, it's one of those type things where, you got little girls like I do, they're 3 and 2, and it doesn't seem to bother them.
Now, you gonna take your truck out today? Is that the plan?
I don't know. We didn't go out yesterday. We went out 3 straight days in a row. We kind of took a break yesterday.
You can turn your radio on too and listen to the radio if you want to, can't you?
Well, I mean, you have your phones and MP3 players and stuff like that, where you can always listen to music on the beach. But I tell you what you see down here more than anything now is LSU wins the national championship, and man, you see more LSU flags, more LSU people wearing T-shirts. I mean, there's a lot of LSU fans on the Panhandle.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of those, they've gone through a tough ride on this COVID-19.
Well, a lot of Louisiana people are supposed to be stopped.
I know it. I know that.
To the state of Florida, I have some friends of mine that own a house. Actually, one of them's a doctor or a pediatrician that grew up in Troy, a guy named Jay Wiley. So he lives 2 houses over from me. And Jay told me that he got stopped coming from Mobile, where they actually live, to Grayton on I-10. And he said there was over 14 troopers, basically making everybody pull off the interstate to a truck stop, way station area, and checking all their information, like where they're from, their driver's license, if they've been in Louisiana, all these different hotspot states. I mean, it's amazing the state of Florida's doing this. I said, well, my parents come down all the time from Troy to, their place down, at the beach. I was like, I guess they just don't check the back roads. I guess if you go on a major interstate, they're going to check you. But if you go down the small country roads, they don't check you.
Boy, I tell you, that is something.
Isn't that amazing that they could take that many people off the interstate? Yeah. You're talking about probably thousands of cars a day to look at driver's license and ask where they've been over.
And of course, I've seen. Yesterday, I was at Walmart briefly to pick up some groceries, and I saw all kinds of masks. I saw Alabama mask, Auburn's mask. I've yet to see one for Troy, and I asked him. I said, "Where'd you get that?" He said, "Well, some friends, a friend of mine made them, and I reckon you can do anything, it must be easy to do, but at the same time, there are people needing these masks all over the country. I'll tell you this right now. If you go, let's just say now, let's just use you as an example, Mike. You've got a place, down at Grayton Beach, and then you got a fenced-in yard. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, when you go down to the beach, do you wear a face mask?
No, I never wear a mask outside when I'm out with the girls.
Okay. Now, if you went to the grocery store,
nobody does.
If you went to the grocery store, would you wear a mask?
Yeah, I wore a mask yesterday at the grocery store.
Okay. If you went to the post office, would you wear a mask?
Anytime I go into a building where there's a lot of people, I wear a mask, but I don't wear a mask outside.
Do you ever wear gloves?
No, I've never wore gloves the whole time.
Yeah, but of course, if you've heard me say outside the friendly.
When I go to the grocery store, I have a mask on and I have hand sanitizer in my pockets, and I have 2 wet ones. So when I open anything, as far as grabbing orange juice or anything that has a handle on it, I'll grab the wet one out of my pocket and open it with that. And then after I pick a lot of different items up and throw them in the carts, I usually do hand sanitizer, at least 3 or 4 times while I'm in the grocery store.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reason I'm wearing this is to tell you how easy it is to put one of these on. And I was at the post office yesterday, saw a good friend of mine, a good friend of my family's, and bless his heart, he wanted to shake my hand, and he wanted also to talk. And he was more than 6 foot away, but I could tell that he was spraying the area with conversation, and he told me that he adhered to all the standards, and he and his wife were very conscious of what to do and so forth. But if I hadn't had my mask on, I would have felt very uncomfortable. And I even then, I felt like I had to move back and move away. And, that was at the post office. So please get your face mask because not only are you protecting yourself, you're protecting the people out there that are trying to get their mail and head home or whatever. But again,
big news. Back to sports. Troy, has the opportunity to have their players come back and play their senior year, and Troy's best player is deciding to come back and play his 6th year at Troy is Drew Frederick.
Oh man,
Troy baseball for Drew Frederick to come back. He's their best player. Well, either him or Rigsby Mosley, center fielder, are the best players. And
does Rigsby Mosley have another year, or does he graduate?
Yeah, he's got another year. So
well, the Troy's going to be tough.
Well.
How about the pitcher out of Decatur? Out of Coleman, is he going to be able to come back?
I don't know. I don't know if he'll want to go to the draft or not. He put up some pretty huge numbers to start the season. I think his ERA was under 1.
Named Thomas, and really is a very good pitcher.
But Frederick coming back is pretty big for Coach Smart in baseball. Of course, they got off to an 8-1 start and finished 9-8. They really struggled with pitching.
But one of the key players also was hurt. The young man out of Cottonwood, Mike, is a very good player. Was he drafted?
I don't know. Some of these guys might want to go through the draft, and some of these guys can come back. So.
Of course.
I read an article that Frederick's definitely coming back.
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about, the pitcher that had been hurt, and of course got the great slider, and hopefully he'll come back. That's gonna, I'm wondering if that's gonna be.
You're gonna see the largest number of baseball players ever on.
That's what I was going to ask you, numbers wise.
Levi Thomas is a kid out of Coleman.
Yeah.
So he was a junior, so he might want to go ahead and go to the draft.
Yeah, he's a very good player. But gosh, it's going to mess some things up as far as numbers.
You talking about Gill?
Yeah, Gill, exactly.
Yeah, Corey Gill.
Yeah, Corey Gill is a big time player. He's got a.
Those numbers don't count though.
Yeah.
They'll be fine when it comes to that.
They will. He'll be able to come back.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The numbers don't count. They're basically just letting these guys come back. So I mean, it's not going to affect.
Yeah, but as far as
scholarships.
exactly. But your numbers, I don't. You would almost think
you can have as many players as you want to have. As far as if they were eligible this year, they'll be eligible next year.
All right, and of course your scholarship limits.
That means for Troy senior, Drew Frederick could come back. He was a senior. Who else do you have that was a senior that can come back? You've got Dalton Squidfield, Halfielder.
Yeah, that's right.
He was a senior. Corey Gibb was a senior. He could come back. Lance Johnson, right-handed relief pitcher, could come back.
Oh boy, yeah.
Max Newton, who's been there forever, pitcher, senior, he could come back. Ryan Fultz, who's a reliever, could come back.
Yeah.
He's a senior. Zach Lightsey, he can come back.
Lightsey, my buddy Lightsey, but I think my Lightsey's going to go ahead and get a degree and probably go get married.
And right-handed pitcher Will Carney, he can come back. He's a senior. Let's see who else for seniors that can come back to play on Troy's baseball team next year. A kid out of Dothan, Zach Moore, can come back. A kid out of Hickson, Tennessee, Hunter Mercer can come back.
Yeah, that's right. Big designated hitter.
That's a catcher out of Florence, Alabama. Briley Reeves can come back. So all these guys can come back and play next year if they want to.
Boy, that's going to be something. Boy, it's going to load up their rosters too, like you said, and of course, baseball. I think they have 11 or 12 scholarships, and they have to split them up. Is that right?
I think they get
13, and of course, a lot of people are on half scholarship and so forth, and I can't understand that, Mike. Football, you don't run into that, and basketball, you don't run into that. You get 15 scholarships in basketball. But in baseball, they limit it, and I can't understand why don't they give them more scholarships.
I didn't realize that Troy brought back Adam Goodwin as Director of Player Performance and Development. Of course, he was a great player at Troy and married Kelly Hawkins, Chancellor Hawkins' daughter. He was in the minors for a long time.
Yeah.
And
one of the greatest base stealers of all time at Troy. I've never seen the likes of him.
In 2005, he had 84 stolen bases.
And most every time they were trying to hold him on. That's the unreal thing about it. I mean, everybody knew he was going to steal, and they still couldn't stop him. But he had great speed, but more than anything, he just, I asked him one time, I said, how, there's a lot of guys out here that probably can outrun you, but it's just a unique feeling you get. He told me, he said when to run and when not to run. So he was a great one.
He was an 11th round pick.
That's pretty good in baseball, yeah.
Baseball draft and played in the minors for 6 years across 4 different levels. So I mean, he came pretty close to the major leagues.
Yeah, that's right.
He tells you all the time that we talk about it, just countless guys that get close to the majors, and then we Brian Meadows at the rec department that played 7 years in the majors. It's just amazing. Brian gets drafted out of high school at Charles Henderson and is in Major League Baseball by the time he's 21 years old. It's still hard to believe.
I'm going to try my best to get him on the show.
Yeah, we had to talk to Brian and ask what these guys that we're expecting to be in a season right now. I mean, baseball is supposed to start over a month ago. What these guys are doing to prepare and still stay in shape and get ready for the season, because there'll be a baseball season. I'm just shocked that we're not hearing more about when it's going to start.
Yeah, you're right. I tell you, it's amazing. You know what I'd like to do with Brian is bring him in at numerous times before the end of the summer, and just ask him a very, very unusual, a very common question. How do you put on your major league uniform? You know what I'm saying? What all is involved in getting prepared to play a game? Now stirrups. See, they don't wear the high stirrups like they did back. You know what I'm talking about? With the socks. So that makes it easier.
They came out when I was even a kid with stirrup socks, where it looked like you had stirrups on.
That's right. Yeah, that was one of the best inventions. In fact, back when I was a kid, you take the sock, and then what you do, you cut it where you put it on at your foot. You cut that, and you would sew elastic on it, and you would make your own stirrups. Because Mickey Mantle wore his stirrups up high, and I can remember Beta Pinson and Frank Robinson with Cincinnati. I can see those pictures of those guys. But they were going back to those stirrups, Mike, this year and last year. You were seeing more of it than ever.
Yeah, I mean, some guys like to dress kind of old school, and some guys don't.
You know, one of the worst things that I ever did was I was getting ready one day to go play a game, and I had my uniform on, and I was waiting for my daddy to come out to take me to the ballpark, and I was swinging a bat, and what I was doing, I was looking at myself in the car window there, swinging a bat, and then guess what happened?
You broke the window, I guess?
I broke the window.
My goodness.
My daddy told me then I could walk to the ballpark. Just trying to watch myself swing, you know what I mean?
I mean, didn't y'all play right across the street?
Yeah, I mean, I've been.
Was there a way y'all could go through the cemetery?
Oh yeah, through the woods. I did that many times.
I thought there was that huge gully though.
Well, it was a huge gully, but we played in that gully every day, And I was very used.
Was that a man-made gully back there, or was that just natural?
That was a natural gully, a natural gully where over the years, it drained it. Now I didn't come back through the cemetery at night much, but in the day, it was you almost like you being there, And but you didn't go. I didn't. I came back the shortcut way, which wasn't very far. But
so growing up in Troy, you had the fields at Knox Street Fields, and then you had, I guess, when did Troy develop Frazier Field over there? When did that get built around the hospital over there?
Yeah, well, let me tell you, Frazier Field at one time, I was one of the first groups to play baseball on what they call Frazier Field. Now they call it Hogan's Hole, and that was a terrible.
I'm talking about Scotty Sowers Fields.
Okay.
The rec league fields over there near the hospital. When did those get developed?
Okay, it was way after I'd gone through. We played. The only field we played on in Little League was McGee Field, which was over there near the cemetery. Then later on, the field that you played on was adjacent to McGee Field. I didn't play on that field.
We called it Knox Street.
Knox Street, that's right.
Pitching machine leagues.
That's right, and then of course the high school field. Let me just tell you a little secret about it. I don't know if it's a secret. It was one of the worst baseball fields in the history of mankind. I'm telling you. First of all, they didn't have any kind of grass infield. It was like literally playing in a pasture. And of course, we practiced football down there too. But when baseball season came around, they didn't have any grass infields, and the outfields was just, like I said, like a cow pasture, and didn't have much grass on it. Down the right field line, there was a clay pit down at the very end, and that was the foul line right there of that field. And then it was just open air. Of course, there were trees back in there, no fence, anything. If you hit the ball and it rolled in the ditch, which was the outfield, it'd be an automatic double. If it went in the air, it'd be a home run. This is the old Charleston High School baseball field, and then of course it was down in a sort of like a pit, and. It was just one ugly field, if you've ever seen one. I was playing right field one time, and we were playing Greenville, and a guy from Greenville, a real good hitter, hit a line drive down the right field line, Mike, and it clogged in the clay pit. It was a clay wall there, and the ball just clogged into the the clay pit there, and he got an automatic. No, actually, they gave him. Well, yeah, it was automatic double. But then later on, when the program got better and better, they started, the band practice on that field during the off season, and then finally somebody decided that they would put some dugouts in there that have a dugout with a top on it, and it never was very good. And then, of course, in left field, if you hit it, many times if you're playing left field, there were balls that left fielder would be going after it, and the minute he just goes out of sight. What he did, he fell down in the ditch, and they had to go get him. And the one problem is we used to give out baseballs all the time, either at practice or during the game. The umpire would say, "Coach, do you have any more balls?" And they said, "No, the last one it went down in the ravine over there, and I can't get any of my players to go get in those balls because they're afraid they get snake bit."
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
We couldn't even get anybody that would go get the balls.
They still do that to this day.
Huh?
Have to go find those. They still, have to go find foul balls all the time to this day.
And of course, Hogan's hole, Mike Hogan, and during his tenure, they started getting nicer facilities, and of course, they've now got the big, tall wall in left field. It's a very good baseball field now, Mike. Very good baseball field.
I mean, I mention it all the time. The most unusual bleachers ever for a baseball stadium.
You're right.
I mean, how they came up with that idea.
Well, you know what? They say the cheapest thing.
Then they did the same thing for the softball field.
Yeah, and you know what they said? Well, we've got it'd be too expensive to go buy bleachers and all that. But our good buddy over here at the concrete plant tells me that all we had to do is just wall it up, and he'd go fill it up with concrete. So that made that concrete ballpark. Do you know, though, it's a very unique place, though, to watch a baseball game, where you can actually bring your recliner in.
Yeah, you bring your chair back.
Yeah, and your chair back in, and it's just like sitting back watching the game from your bed or whatever. It's really a wonderful place to watch a game now. It really is.
Yeah, I remember in high school, I was asked to go upstairs and be the public address guy. Coach Jeffcoat asked me. He asked me if I wanted to start, doing the public address and announcing the players when they came to bat, and it was fun. I did it.
Yeah.
I know one season for sure up there in that little bitty press box where I guess there was a little upstairs.
That's right.
But when you would call the games, I called some games with you later. We'd always just call the games from the bleachers.
That's right, and you could get right behind them. It was easy to set up, no question about it. And it's right now very good field.
It's one of those I always have nightmares because I always think about it being 95 degrees and having to run up and down those bleachers.
Yeah, I know it.
For football.
Well, see, back before they had those bleachers, that's how we had to go back and forth to the field, and it was we practiced down there on that field where the girls' softball field is now. That was our practice field for years, and then you had to walk a long ways back to the dressing room. Going back and forth, it's almost a mile down there, But,
I can't believe for years that they would actually bus the kids from the high school to Troy Stadium and then back to the high
They did that
school.
this past year until they finally got a practice field. And
I know. It seems like they would just walk them. I mean, that's such a short walk.
Well, I don't know, Mike. It's it's a lot of liability there too, though. Let's just say one of these kids got hit by a car, walking to the practice.
Well, if you know Charles Henderson High School, the greatest field as far as practice field was the band field.
Oh, it was excellent.
Why in the world they never practiced there? And it was shaded.
Well, very few people watching our show today.
It was on top of a hill back there. I mean, instead they put us in a hole.
Yeah, I mean,
it was like 95 degrees.
It was an excellent band practice field, and very few people watching this show today that have ever seen that practice field. So it's right behind.
Anybody that went to Charles Henderson High School knows where it is because it's right next to where the Break Shack was. We went to every day for snacks.
But what I'm saying, though, a lot of people, though, did not know that this field existed, and it was really a nice field. And, you would thought that the band guy would have said to the football coach, Coach, I know it's real muddy on your field and the grass is not cut. You're welcome to use our field today. I never saw that. the band took care of their own field, and they left it like that.
Michael Thomas was a powerful guy back in the day.
Yeah, the band. I would like to see more emphasis put on the band. I saw Enterprise High School's band this year. They're, just outstanding. Their band. I would even put them up with the Sound of the South as far as being quality. And of course, you could tell that it took them about 6 or 8 buses to bring their team to Troy to the game, but the quality of band programs. But what it does more than anything, it enhances more people to want to go to Enterprise High School and be a part of a great ensemble or band like the Enterprise Band. And their mama and their daddy's going to go to the game, their aunts and their uncles, their best friends and their friends, and would bring a lot of people to the program. And, of course, it'll bring a lot of kids to the school because they had a program like the Enterprise Band or some of these outstanding band programs. It really enhances the quality of the school to have 200 kids in your band.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and that's great for your fans.
But you got to pay a price. There's a lot of work involved too. At the same time, if you're going to be a part of the band, it's going to be a lot of work involved too.
Yeah, it's great to have a band. For any football team, especially when they're on the road, it helps a lot.
Yeah, no question about it. And we have a good band director and a good, but I don't know if there's as much emphasis on the band like it was when I was in school. We had close to 150 people in the band when I was in school.
It makes you think when
either you played football or you were in the band.
Troy University opens back up June 1st. You would think all the band members would come back as well. They probably have to start practicing.
I'm going to just say this about all of this. Let me tell you this. If the most important thing out there to me is not the economy as much as it is the human life, and there's going to be more and more people dying from this disease. And
you got so many people committing crimes and domestic violence, and you got people committing suicide. There's a lot of people affected by this, the company, not the company, but the country shutting down as well. People are broke. People can't pay their bills.
I know, exactly. And
you got to try to open up the economy and give these people, a chance as well. Yeah. So,
I hope people do.
It's kind of one of those type things you can't just sit back and just, let people suffer either. So, there's reasons they're open in the country, as well. So, I understand East Point, especially being down here and where I live in the service industry. This is a vacation mecca down here,
How did the first day of school go for your kids?
It went good. Trust me, it was definitely strange. They went from a preschool that had 53 kids to, I think they said yesterday, 13 kids were there. So, a lot of families didn't send their kids back, but a lot of families also have kids that are in public schools. All the public schools are shut down.
Do they have any kind of testing or anything for children?
Yeah, the kids are all checked for their temperature when they walk into the building. That's done as soon as they're dropped off, and then no parents are allowed into the building whatsoever. You can't bring backpacks. Everything's just like the old days, like when you were growing up. Everything's in a paper bag, all their snacks and their foods. And then when I pick them up, I can't go inside. I basically just picked little Millie up off the playground, and then they walked inside and got Mary Prater. So that's kind of the way the setup is, and I think that's the way the setup's going to be, come August.
Yeah. I cannot foresee fans being in the stands at football games. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, how can you allow students back on
well,
campus?
all right, but at the same time,
how can you allow them in a closed building in class?
Yeah.
Which is way more easier to get the virus when you're in a closed building than an outside venue like a football stadium, where it's going to be probably 95 degrees.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and they say the virus doesn't spread near as well, you know, when it's outside.
Well, you know, like I said, that the doctor from Japan, you know, said that most viruses sort of, you know, they're on fire if the air is cold. You know, if it's in a cold area, but then most viruses sort of is more deleted when it was hot temperatures. So, you know, but this virus, it doesn't seem to affect whether it's hot or cold. It doesn't seem like it has an effect either way. It doesn't seem like it stops this virus. And again, it looks like we're going to probably reach 100,000 deaths by the end of the summer. And again, you know, I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, nobody loves college football any more than I do. But at the same time, we want to be careful with, you know, how we do it. I mean, like, it won't be any 100,000 seat stadiums being full. Do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
how would they do it?
Well, I mean, the only thing I think is, you know, we're, you know, lucky to have Alabama season tickets for several years and Tide Pride members. The only thing I can think is that maybe some of the more bigger boosters, you know, some of the people that have the skyboxes and some of the people that have been Tide Pride members for several years, that maybe they would have more of a chance to go to the games maybe than some of the kind of newer, I guess what I'm saying is the people that spend more money and donate more to the program would probably have more of a chance to maybe go to the games than maybe some of the people that sit in the nosebleeds.
Well,
I think you could do it where you could sit people easily 6 feet apart, but I mean, it basically comes down to how many people they'll let into a stadium. Like right now in restaurants down here, just to give you an example, in Florida, where I live, you can have only 25% occupancy, you know, as far as, you know, people that can come into your restaurant. So I was watching a piece last night on the local news down here about the legendary Captain Anderson's restaurant. So they're interviewing one of the owners of Captain Anderson's, and Captain Anderson's usually seats 800 people.
Yeah.
800 people at one time can have dinner at Captain Anderson's. So at 25% occupancy, basically that means that they can have 200 people still in their restaurants.
Yeah.
So 200 people, if they booked reservations last night or showed up at Captain Anderson's last night, could have had dinner there last night.
Yeah. Exactly
so
right.
Basically, that's the way it's going to be in football stadiums as well. So, you know, say they get to 50%, that means 50,000 people could go to an Alabama football game.
Yeah. Right now, of course, the hotline number is 670-5109. I talked to them earlier, and if you got any questions about the virus and what to do.
Surely nobody's got any questions about the virus anymore.
Well, one thing.
We've been going through for so long.
Well, some people, believe it or not, don't. You know, that's why we've got that number on your screen, 670-5409, for any questions concerning the virus. They want you to call your doctor if you think you have any symptoms. Call your doctor, and he'll tell you what to do from there. And in most cases, he might refer to this Troy Regional Medical Center hotline. And I did talk to some of those people this morning, and they're open and ready to hear your call. And of course, as we mentioned, 75 right now is the number for Pike County. Excuse me, 79 is the number for Pike County. So far, thank goodness, no deaths to report in Pike County. Of course, Mike Amos is with us. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Of course,
Troy Cable Security Wi-Fi doorbell camera allows you to answer the door from your smartphone when you are at home, at work, or on the go. When a visitor presses the button, Troy Cable Security sends a live video feed to your smartphone so you can see, hear, and speak to the person at your door. With the doorbell camera, you can have your porch light turn on automatically when it detects motion at night to create the appearance that someone is at home. You can view video clips so you can always know who stopped by when you are out. Troy Cable Security. You love them, protect them.
A personal touch, a high level of trust. Whether it's checking and savings accounts, personal or business loans, or our local friendly service. That's what Troy Bank and Trust customers expect. But now we offer more. Free identity theft protection for our new and existing customers, protecting your family's time, money, and good name from identity theft. Because protecting your identity is now a big part of our identity.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Piggly Wiggly's local butchers are on site at both stores and will help you select the best cuts of meat and trim them to your liking. Our USDA choice beef is the most consistently tender, juicy, and flavorful beef you can buy, all at cost plus 10%.
Try to use it. Back to our show, and I appreciate Steve Camp so very much. Mike, he runs this show and does a super job. I'll tell you one thing about it. If you want to get see somebody that's prepared for this, people coming into our studios and so forth, you've got to have a certain, what I'm saying, they're going to ask you 4 or 5 questions before you can walk in the door, which is very smart and very, what I call, very dependable to be able to do that. And we appreciate it very much. Of course, be responsible, and with this situation, please don't take this thing for granted. And that's what scares me. I was looking at some of these places, Mike, on the beach this weekend were awfully crowded.
Well, we were out there early, and luckily, with our girls, we can drive out there on the truck and try to get away from most of the people on the beach. But unfortunately, you're dealing with so many people fishing right now. So out there on the beach, you literally have pole after pole in the sand. So you're trying to get away from that crowd, and then you're trying to get away from the lake crowd where all the families go. Because, in Graydon, you have the lake that a lot of the families want to set up so their kids can swim the lake and then also walk over to the Gulf of Mexico. So, it's one of those type things, thank goodness we can get out there early and get off. We rarely stay over, 2 hours on the beach, and then we're gone for the rest of the day. But, yeah, there's a lot of people down here right now. There's no doubt about it. And, it's just one of those things where you hope people stay 6 feet apart. I saw tons of code enforcement officers on the beach and tons of sheriffs on the beach. And hopefully if they saw something that was out of hand, they did something about it. I know we had some issues down here as far as, the Amos coming down, but I think it was a lot to do with more alcohol-related issues as far as people drinking a little too much on the beach and having a hard time getting off the beach.
And of course we appreciate Bill Jackson Chevrolet, Bill Jackson Ford on the bypass, and of course Jim Jackson's part of our football shows in the fall, and we're looking forward to working with him again. But wonderful Chevrolet and Ford dealerships on the bypass right in Troy. I want to mention our good friends, John Withington, one of my very good friends. I played ball with him. You talk about hard-nosed, Mike. He was hard-nosed, and we used to go at it all the time. Of course, he was a year younger than me, but his good buddy, Perry Green, of course, Perry Green, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. See Perry Green for your state, your insurance today, and we appreciate him.
You got James Lucas, too.
Oh, Lucas is retired, Mike. Jamie
retired.
Kalukas is retired, and James Lucas, one of my best friends, Mike. And you talk about an athlete. Tell him, people don't, of course, you know.
He was definitely one of my favorite coaches growing up.
Well, and Mike, tell him, you know, you talk about an athlete. Now, he played. I played with him.
He would outrun everybody on our team in junior high school.
I know it. And what I'm saying is he would challenge them, you know, if they wanted to run. But he was an outstanding track star at Charles Simpson too. He ran the hurdles and broad jumped, and just a great athlete. He was a junior when I was a senior. Of course, there was only one sophomore that started, and believe it or not, it was Perry Green. You know, you're All-State. You're in good hands with All-State. And, of course, they are all very good friends. Johnny Withington played a lot in the secondary of my senior year. He was a junior. And then James Lucas played a real lot as a running back and a defensive back. And those are the three guys that were underclassmen that played a lot when I was a senior. The team I played on was the 1964 football season, 65 school year. But we went 8-2, and we lost to a heartbreaker well, not a heartbreaker, lost to a very good Dothan team, and then lost to a heartbreaker at Luverne. They had a guy named Charles West that was one of the outstanding high school players, and of course, you know, their coach, Glenn Daniel, was one of the all-time greats. But it was one of the better Troy teams ever. I mean, our team went to Enterprise and beat Enterprise at their homecoming. We shut out Joe Carroll and Danny Grant 13-0, and of course the late Frank Sadler, who sat right here on this podium for a long time. Wouldn't it have been great to have me at one end and then way down at the end have Coach Sadler looking down there reading the paper? You know, somebody asked me and said, all you do when you turn on your TV was seeing two men with their heads bowed.
He'd read the paper, and he'd also file his nails. File his nails. I mean,
I've never seen anybody eat their fingernails like he did, and his son, Frank Jr., does the same thing. And bless their hearts. And of course, let me just say this. I've worked with two people, and I loved them both. And one of them was Frank Sadler, and the other one was Bud Casey. Man, would I love to see Bud Casey walk in this room today. What would Bud Casey say to you, Mike, if he saw you sitting, he walked into our studio, what would he say to you?
Well, I mean, even though I'm not, he would call me Junior.
Junior!
Yeah, Bud's one of those guys, like, literally, like, you can still hear his voice. That's one thing I always love to think of him. You can still hear him, even though he's not with us anymore. He's up in heaven. But you definitely, if you ever knew him, especially if you ever went to one of his parties at the beach, you're talking to a guy that was loved by so many people and loved to be around people. God, he was a lot of fun.
And big time people. Pat Dine, you know.
I'd come home from Birmingham a lot. A lot of times he'd be swimming in the pool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's been many times I walk out on my deck and I look down at that big old guy was laying on his back in the pool, you know.
He's a giant of a guy, too. Sometimes I'd go to the track and go exercise, and I'd see him out there walking, and he was every bit of like 6'5", 6'6", just a
They say he's one of the best high school players to ever come out of the state of Alabama. And, of course, he signed with Alabama. At the same time, Bill Rice signed with Alabama. Bud was about 6'3" or 6'4" and weighed 255 pounds. You know, back then, that was unheard of. But when he got to Alabama, of course, Rice weighed about 220.
Bud was not 6'3". Bud was like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, well, that's right. So, yeah, you're right, 6'5". And when he reported to Alabama, you know what Coach Bryant said? He said, son, you got to lose 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And, of course, you know, he was an outstanding player. And I tell you what, if you've ever been around college football and you ask somebody if they knew Bud Casey, if they didn't know him, they didn't know a lot about college football because he was well-known, well-respected, and, of course, he coached.
One of these days, I'd like to go back and watch a lot of those Bud and Amos shows. I, of course, was living in Birmingham most of the time, but
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that.
I know y'all had coaches from all over the country that he would call.
Yeah. Oh, and many times, we'd be sitting here and at 4, back then, ladies and gentlemen, the Bud and Amos show ran from 6 to 7 right here on Troy Cable. And then afterwards, I had my hour and a half show after that. Sometimes he'd sit around and stay with me, but that was from 7 to 8:30. So we were on the air a long time. And we get here, and then Bud would get up around 4, at least 3:30 or 4. And a lot of coaches are like that. They're early morning people. And I say, Bud, you're not calling a guy at 4 o'clock in the morning to be on our show. And it wouldn't faze him one bit to call somebody at 4 o'clock. And what the guy, Mike, that he called more than anybody was our buddy that was the head coach at UAB during that time and played at Alabama.
Yeah,
Neil Calloway. And I had Neil. I said, Neil, he calls you every morning at 4 o'clock or 4:30. He said, well, I've been at work for about an hour. I needed to talk to somebody. But Neil Calloway, and then it was just so many other people from around the country.
Did y'all ever talk to Pat Sullivan much? I know him and Pat were close friends.
They were very good friends. But, he respected Pat to not wake him up, because when he'd call Pat, he'd be waking up not only Pat, but his family, and Bud Casey loved Pat Sullivan. And, we talk about great players and great people. He has to be Auburn's all-time favorite player if you had a vote. That Bud, of course, Bo Jackson would be one of them, and Tucker Ferguson. But I don't think anybody would deny that Pat Sullivan was one of Auburn's all-time greats. Bud Casey, who never said this about anybody much, Mike, he said Pat Dye was the best man he ever knew. Isn't that something?
Pat Dye?
Not Pat Dye, but Pat Sullivan.
Pat Sullivan.
That's what I'm talking about. Pat Sullivan is not Pat Dye, but Pat Sullivan was one of the best people he ever knew. And he knew a lot, And all you Thompson boys from Enterprise, he loved y'all, I tell you that. Of course, Harold Thompson was his best friend from Enterprise, and Harold's still living, and we lost his sweet, darling Jackie, his wife, and, of course, Bud, one of Bud's favorite people. And, of course, when...
we owe, I guess, Bud even coming to Troy just because Coach Blakeney, their relationship.
Oh, yeah, and, of course, let me tell you this, loyalty. When you see coaches, you get around coaches, there's a lot of loyalty there,
Bud never coached on the field at Troy. He only worked, in the athletic department.
That's right. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you, Bud and Wayne Bolt were best friends, and gosh, you got those two. So Larry Blakeney, when he brought those guys on, and Johnny Williams brought those guys on, there was a price you're gonna pay now, because they gonna be who they are regardless. And I'm not saying it's not good, but they would say and do most anything, and they were wonderful coaches and part of this program.
I don't even know that story. How did that even come about that you and Bud even talked about doing a show together? Were y'all just hanging out?
Well, yeah, we just hang.
And you were doing Today in L.A. and he said that.
That's right.
We ought to start a show, the Bud and Amos show.
That's right, and of course we had it.
Was it like conversation? Y'all went back and forth, or did y'all just literally go on the air one day and just start a show?
Well, we similar to that, but he was on my show several times.
I'm just saying, did y'all ever sit down together and do a show like just kind of a dress rehearsal, or did y'all just go?
We just went. It was very easy, And let me tell you something. You have somebody like Bud Casey, he could talk forever about most anything, And he had a lot of friends across the country, and one of his friends was a guy named Virgil Knight. And he called Virgil Knight at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Virgil Knight would be in the weight room of Baylor University or wherever he was coaching at the time. But one of his favorite people was Virgil Knight, and then another one was his favorite coach up in Oklahoma, and I would love to know if if that coach was still living. But he called him every morning that early. And,
he coached at Oklahoma?
Yeah, not the University of Oklahoma, but Oklahoma State. And he played this guy played at Arkansas with all those guys.
Jerry Jones.
Yeah, he and Jerry Jones and all them were close friends. You know, loyalty is huge in every part of life, but nothing bigger than in college football. The loyalty coaches have with each other, and it was really just so wonderful. I mean, like when the Bowdens were in town. I mean, Bobby Bowden would come in and they'd shoot the breeze 4 or 5 minutes. I'd say, hey, when are y'all gonna come get on the podium? I mean, the Bowdens loved coming here because it was so much fun to be around and talk football and so forth. And Bobby Bowden many times told me, he said, this is a great place, talking about Troy. He said the only difference in Troy and Florida State was what, Mike?
The only difference between Troy and Florida State was, at the time, was Division I.
But money, what we're talking about, money.
Yeah, of course.
He said if Troy had all money, they could do anything they wanted, you know. And of course, it was true. And but Bud was a great promoter.
Troy, you know, I mean, that's what a lot of people never understand. I talked to some neighbors that are around here, the huge Florida State supporters, and of course they talk about Bowden all the time in the glory days. And, you know, I mentioned all the time, I was like, you know, Troy was only 2.5 hours from Tallahassee, and it's 2.5 hours from Tuscaloosa. I said definitely when I was growing up, my second favorite college team was Florida State. I had a Florida State hat, Florida State T-shirts, and, you know, I definitely pulled for Florida State as well. It makes me wonder, like I talk to some people down here every once in a while, I'm just like, you know, if Florida State gets getting football again, like once a year, would I take my wife and girls to a Florida State game, you know?
Yeah. Well, talk about Coach Bowden. He was such a nice guy, and Terry was a nice guy. You know, people. Oh God, Terry Bowden was a great guy. You know, and Tommy was super guy.
He seems like a super guy too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and of course, you know, one thing about Bobby Bowden that a lot of people didn't know, he was a preacher. He came to Howard College back then. There was a Baptist in Samford University, is a Baptist school, and he's a great preacher. And I said, Coach Bowden, I said, I go to the First Baptist Church in Troy back then, and I said, will you come preach to us? He said, yes. All you got to do is call me. He would come and preach. He preached somewhere. He preached somewhere every Sunday. He preached somewhere every Sunday, and he loved it. You know. Yeah,
he stopped in Troy several times at Country Kitchen and Julia's.
Well, one day, Bill Rice used to tell this story. The old Country Kitchen, and all these Auburn guys would meet there, and Alabama guys, or the Alabama guys would meet.
Well, yeah, they do the Red Elephant Club.
But they meet there every Friday. And one day they were sitting there eating, and I don't know if it was Lawyer Calhoun or Lawyer Falk or who walked by, and they said, aren't you Coach Bowden? He said, yeah. I said, well, come over and join us. We're having we're eating together, a bunch of Alabama folks. And he came over there, and they said he sat there for 2 hours talking ball. He just loved Coach. They're no different. What I found out more than anything, being around Bud, the coaches, regardless how good or whatever, they're just football coaches. Like Ben Beard says, they're ball coaches, and they're just regular people as much as anybody ever.
I tell you what, though, some of them have egos. I've been around some of the more higher up ones.
Yeah,
Saban several times. I mean, when they won the national championship. And we had those meetings at the Renaissance, and he came in shaking everybody's hands. I shook his hand, you shook his hand. I think he came back around and shook our hands again. I mean, he was totally, just smiling and happy as could be. And then I've seen him when Alabama lost heartbreaking national championships. He walks in, they put him in a room where he doesn't even go out until he has to speak. So I mean, it's just one of those things where. Some of these guys have egos. There's no doubt about it.
Most all great people have an ego, at any walk of life, no question about it.
Yeah, have you seen this? I mean, this is unbelievable for me to think this, but Charles Henderson put out their football schedule yesterday, and I was looking at it, and the last game of the season, I was shocked to see this, because I know these kids would come over here and beat Charles Henderson. They're playing Brantley, the last game of the
Whoa! Yeah, that'd be a great game.
A 1A school playing a 5A school.
That's right. And let me tell you, Brantley is good. And of course, we're talking about Title Town, Mike.
Brantley playing Charles Henderson in football. Yeah. I've never heard of that.
I haven't either. But of course, it's a good program, no question about it. And I'm tickled to see that Brantley's quarterback that is playing at Troy is doing so well, Mike. When he went to that junior college after he left Vanderbilt, he must have put up some numbers, Mike, and he's quite a player now.
Well, I mean, it's wait and see. Coach Lindsey said that there's 3 guys that are in the competition for the starting job. You got Gunnar Watson, Jacob Free, and then you got the Parker McNeil, the junior college guy they brought in. But, I mean, he didn't really say who was 1, who was 2, who was 3, so we don't really know where they stand.
Exactly right.
I mean, Coach Lindsey's, I heard a press conference the other day.
He had one. Yeah, you're right.
3 or 4 days ago, and he said that they're waiting to hear back from the NCAA, like, when they can actually start by practicing and how long they would need to get their guys ready for a season. And he said some coaches and athletic directors are saying 8 weeks. Some guys need 10 weeks. Some guys, need 6 weeks. And he said that, if it came down to 6 weeks, he would still, think he would have his guys ready to go. So, that's just right around the corner. So
you would think they would at least wait. You would think they would at least wait a little bit, like instead of starting in September, start in October or November. Give it some more time. I think time.
Well, I think it just comes down to if the fans are involved. If the fans are not involved and they're not going to let fans go to the game, just go ahead and start in September like normal. It doesn't matter.
Let me tell you this, and I said this the other day, and I was watching this closely. You know how you will go to an airport, you walk through, and it's going to either ring a bell or you're going to walk through, and they're going to send you on through and whatever. I think you would have to have one of those at every gate, and each individual, you would have to get there early and let the fans in early to go ahead and get them all in there. If the buzzer buzzes, they can't go in the game. They cannot go in the game. They should, maybe they should put something around their wrist that's saying that they should not be in the game. But have a wrist ban for the ones that's supposed to be in the stadium and are tested negative, and like that. I believe it'll be like that. It's going to take a lot longer time to get into a ball game than ever before, but it's more.
It takes forever getting games anyway now with metal detectors.
But don't you agree that they would have something similar to a metal detector that would go ahead and for every person that walked in the stadium?
Well, I mean, they have the little thermometer thing. All they do is stick it at your head. It's just like a radar detector, and it gives your temperature.
Yeah, if they had something like that, they could actually keep the people that tested positive out of the game.
Well, I mean, hopefully people are adults, and if they're sick, they don't come. They don't put people at risk. I mean, if you're sick and you have any decency whatsoever, you don't want to get other people sick, you don't go to the games.
But I mean, what I'm saying, if you're negative,
I mean, you gotta let people be adults as well. You can't expect, people, you gotta have decent judgment, I would hope.
Exactly right.
If you're running a fever that day and you're showing symptoms, why would you get in risk being around other people?
And I think most people would be responsible, but at the same time, they would have to do something like that to have fans in the game. You know what I mean? From band members to even players. Players should.
In the SEC, they've got more than enough money that they could hire people at every single gate to do something like that. Now, at a small school like a Sunbelt school, you might have to have volunteers willing to do that. I don't know how that would work.
TV money, ladies and gentlemen, for the SEC, and that includes how many teams in the SEC? 14? How many?
SEC? 14.
Each team received $45 million just from their TV rights, and the SEC office got $45 million too. you're right. They ought to be able to come up with something that that will make people feel. Right now, I don't know if they didn't do something like that. I wouldn't go to the game. I would stay away. What would you think?
Oh man, I'm to the point where I'd probably go. I mean, I can't live my life in fear. Yeah. I'd be one of those type things. I could get the flu at a game just as easy as I could get the COVID-19 or coronavirus. Yeah. I mean, I would go.
Well, one of the main things that we're talking about is that 6 foot.
I feel like we got to get back to normalcy. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if they cancel seasons 3 months before they're happening, I mean, I think that's just crazy. I don't think you can make those decisions.
I'm thinking that the day of 100,000 fans, 80,000 fans, even 50,000 fans.
I mean,
that I would think that maybe only half of them, so they could sit at least 6 feet apart. Only half of those.
There's going to be possibly a vaccine in January, though. I mean, if they have a vaccine, everything goes back.
The whole key is the vaccine. The whole key is the vaccine.
Once you get a vaccine, you're just like dealing with the flu.
Exactly right.
You're back to normal.
Exactly right. No question about it. And we'll be back to normal. And then you can go to the stadium and you can hot wire this old guy right here. And we're going to go to, here we go. The Crimson Tide of Alabama. They say we'll have a football season this fall. And hopefully it will happen. And when these two guys meet in late November, there they go right there. Those two are going to start fighting. And they're right there. Who's going to win that fight, I do not know. But it looks like they're going to play again this fall. In late November, you'll have Auburn and Alabama. We'll be back in just a moment.
Well, you got 2 minutes left.
Oh, really? All right, we'll stay here then. I hope you've enjoyed our show today. Of course, we're laid-back television at its very best. We appreciate Steve and his staff, and what a great job they do. And we hope that you enjoyed our show, found it to be informative.
Go out to Sisters today and do a takeout order, pick up an order out there.
I need to call her. Before we go off.
Wonderful as ever. Of course, I want to thank all our other sponsors, PS Vault Furniture. Want to definitely go down there to Enterprise to support Andy Falk and his great business. They've been loyal sponsors for a long time.
Well, I don't have Sister's number right on hand, but if I did, I would call them and find out. We've got room. We've got 6 more minutes. If somebody give me their number, I'll call them this morning. I'm looking for my telephone book, but I don't see it anywhere around this right here. But if anybody has Sister's number, well, we need it this morning. Want to mention our good friends at Health Actions this morning, located on the bypass right here in Troy. And, of course, want to appreciate our good friends at Premier Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram Trucks on the bypass. Jason and his staff are busy selling cars like you would not believe, at the best prices you would not believe. And we appreciate them also so much. Also, our good friends at Piggly Wiggly. Whoa. Everybody says there's a shortage of meat. Well, let me tell you this. You haven't gone to Piggly Wiggly. They've got a great supply of delicious steaks and meats, poultry, and just delicious food today.
Yeah, we don't have time to call Sisters today, but if you want to call Sisters Restaurant for a takeout order, their number's 334-566-0064.
0064. 0064.
0064. So 334-566-0064.
All right, okay. Thank you for being on, Mike.
All right, bye.
We'll see if we can. 566-0064. And hopefully we can catch one of them this morning at Sister's Restaurant. They now have carryouts. And of course, I wonder if they're going to have their famous hot dogs that they were talking about the other day. Hopefully someone will answer the phone this morning. And of course, I know it's not easy to prepare your meals this time or go to a restaurant and you're looking at Hook's Barbecue there. They are probably doing as much business as they've done in a long time through the curb service. So you got good food, they'll come. And the same way with Sisters, we'll get up with them tomorrow and talk about their carry-out service that they now provide from Sisters. And we appreciate all of our sponsors. Bird Drugs on the corner in downtown Troy, been open all the way, and appreciate Dixieland Dental and also Trojan Auto Parts. I bought parts there yesterday, and Mike Kilcrease is one of my good friends, and they have a wonderful auto parts there on South Brunswick Street. And Max Federal Credit Union, boy, what a great place. And of course, you're looking for a great bank. No better place than our good friends at Maxwell Federal Credit Union. Hope you've enjoyed our show today. Of course, brought to you by some wonderful sponsors. And again, this is hard times for some people, vacation time for other people. So take advantage of your time off and enjoy it with your family. Appreciate Horn Beverage and all the great things they do for our community, and we appreciate them so much. And of course, also our good friends at Trojan Detail. House Daddy has got the best place in town to have your car up looking like new again, and we appreciate that so much. Of course, Steve and Scott and all the great folks here at Troy Cable, we appreciate them very much, and the staff and management. Of course, First Cahaba Bank, my good friends there, and of course a brand new bank located just off the bypass right here in Troy, and we appreciate them very much being a part of our show today. The Upstore, Deanne, and all the great folks here on South Brunswick Street, they can help your business grow and do some things for you that very few people can do when it comes to doing things, working with your business the best way you'll find in town. Hope that you enjoyed our show, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow. Max Howell will be our guest. Stay tuned. We'll see you.